I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My wife Sarah and I had been together for almost 10 years. We have a son, Cody, who's 12, and I thought everything was pretty stable. We weren't perfect, who is? But I was happy, or so I believed. Sarah was a bit of a bitch sometimes, always quick with a snide comment or a sarcastic remark, but she was smart, beautiful, and she loved Cody more than anything. Our relationship was rocky sometimes, especially lately. She started staying late at work more often, claiming it was just catching up on projects or helping a colleague. I didn't think much of it at first. She's always been good at hiding her feelings, so I just kept an eye on things, trying to give her space. But then, little things started changing. She became more defensive when I asked about her day, started leaving her phone around less, and her attitude toward me got colder. Last week I started noticing her hiding her phone more, deleting texts, and acting anxious whenever I got close to her. I figured maybe she was just stressed, or maybe she was talking to an old friend or something harmless, but I was wrong. The signs pointed somewhere darker and I just didn't want to admit it. I kept convincing myself that I was overthinking, that maybe I was just paranoid, but something was off. Then came the night of Cody's basketball championship. We went to the school gym and it was a big deal. The whole community was there cheering him on, proud of how far he'd come. After the game, we headed to the celebration party in the school cafeteria. That's when I started noticing things. Sarah was acting strange, distracted, tense, avoiding eye contact. She kept checking her phone even more than usual. I saw her whispering to some guy I'd never seen before. That's when I got suspicious, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I kept telling myself maybe it was innocent, that maybe she was just thanking someone or chatting with a friend. But then I saw her slip away with the coach, Coach Martin. The guy who's been mentoring Cody for the past year, helping him improve his game. I'd seen her talking to him a lot lately, and I'd been slightly annoyed, but I trusted her, or at least I tried to. That night I saw her go into the equipment room with him. I was about to dismiss it as some kind of thank you gesture, but I couldn't ignore how nervous she looked, how eager she was to hide what was going on. I followed at a distance, I admit. My heart was pounding, and I felt this sick, sinking feeling in my stomach. I peeked around the corner and saw them. My wife, Sarah, on her knees with her blouse half undone and Coach Martin on top of her. The scene was so explicit, so raw, I couldn't believe it was happening. I froze in shock, trying to process what I was seeing. That's when the janitor, Mr. Harris, walked in. He's an older guy, always doing rounds, and apparently he'd been doing his job late that night. The look on his face when he saw them, priceless. Shock, disbelief, probably disgust. I saw the moment he realized what was happening, and he quickly backed out, muttering some excuse. I don't even remember what I did next. I just stood there, stunned, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe my wife was cheating on me with our son's coach, right in the school equipment room during Cody's celebration party. And she lied about everything beforehand, said she was just thanking him for mentoring Cody, that they were just talking, that I was paranoid. That bitch. She lied, she cheated, she betrayed everything I thought we had. And when I finally confronted her about it, her excuses were even more infuriating. She looked me dead in the eye and told me it was nothing serious, that she was just being kind, that I was overreacting. I couldn't even speak. I just felt this rage bubbling up, this mixture of hurt, anger, and utter betrayal I'd never experienced before. I knew then that I couldn't just sweep this under the rug. Things had changed forever. I had to decide what to do. I was furious at her, disgusted by her lies, but I also felt broken. How did I miss all the signs? How could she do this to me, to our family? I kept asking myself if I'd been blind or just plain stupid. The worst part, I could still see her face, her smug, bitchy expression when she lied to me later, trying to play it off like I was overreacting. That's when I realized this was just the beginning. I had to plan my next move carefully, but I already knew one thing: she was not going to get away with this, not without paying some kind of price. After I saw her in that school equipment room, everything about her changed in my mind. I couldn't sleep that night, replaying the image of her on her knees with that bastard coach. I felt sick, angry, and utterly betrayed. She had always been a bitch, sharp-tongued, manipulative, and cold when she wanted to be, but this, This went way beyond anything I'd ever suspected. It was raw, real, and she didn't even bother to hide it anymore. That's what cut the worst. The next morning, I was a mess. I couldn't look her in the eye. I kept replaying what I saw, trying to find some shred of justification, some way to believe it was a mistake, a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew better. I knew that what I saw was real. She'd cheated on me in a school room during our son's celebration. That was the truth, and I couldn't deny it anymore. My mind was spinning from shock, but I had to act, had to figure out what I was going to do. I decided to confront her that morning. I didn't want to let her lie her way out of it again. I waited until she came down for breakfast and I looked her straight in the eyes. "Sarah, I saw you last night with Coach Martin in the equipment room. Don't lie to me." Her face instantly shifted. That familiar sneer appeared, like she thought she could just brush it off. She rolled her eyes and scoffed. "Oh, come on, Jake, you're crazy, you're overthinking. I was just saying goodbye after the game, that's all." She shrugged, trying to act nonchalant, but her voice cracked and she looked away for a second. I stared at her, furious. "Don't bullshit me. I saw what I saw. You were on your knees. You were, Sarah. Don't pretend it's nothing." Her bitchy attitude kicked in fast. She crossed her arms and spat, "Seriously? You're accusing me of cheating because I talked to Coach Martin? Grow the hell up, Jake." Her tone was condescending, dismissive. He was mentoring. "Cody, that's all. You're trying to make me into some slut just because I said thank you. That's pathetic." I was seething, trying not to punch a hole in the wall. "You're lying, Sarah. I know what I saw. Don't insult my intelligence. Just tell me what the hell is going on. How could you do this? How long has it been happening?" Her eyes narrowed and she huffed. "You're so paranoid. You don't trust me, do you? Maybe if you weren't so insecure, you'd see I'm loyal. But no, you're always looking for something to accuse me of." Her words felt like punches. I felt my hands tighten into fists. I was on the verge of losing it, but I managed to keep my voice steady. "How long, Sarah? How long have you been cheating on me? Don't lie to me." She rolled her eyes again, this time more exaggerated. "Look, Jake, I've been busy with the damn kids' basketball stuff, okay? Maybe I needed some excitement, some fun. You're so boring lately, always working, never paying attention to me. Maybe I just needed, I don't know, some attention from someone who actually listens." That was the moment I knew she was lying. A typical Sarah move: deflect, deny, and blame me. But I knew her game now. She was good at twisting words, at making me doubt myself. Still, her excuses didn't hold up. I could see the guilt in her eyes, the nervous twitch of her fingers. She was lying, and she knew it. I felt like I was drowning in a mixture of rage and heartbreak. My first instinct was to just ruin her right then and there, to scream at her, to tear her apart. But I knew that wouldn't solve anything. Instead, I told her to leave. Not that I wanted her to go because I loved her. No, it was because I needed time to think, to process what I'd seen and what it meant for us. As she stormed out of the kitchen, her high heels clicking on the tile, she called over her shoulder, "You're overreacting, Jake. You're paranoid like always. You're just jealous because I'm better than you." That was her typical response: blame shifting, deflecting. But I wasn't going to be fooled again. I was done being the fool. I sat alone at the table after she left, feeling empty and furious all at once. I couldn't believe I'd trusted her, believed she loved me. I kept asking myself what I'd done wrong, how I missed the signs. But deep down, I knew. The woman I married had been cheating on me for who knows how long, and I was just too blind or too stupid to see it. That day marked the beginning of my plan to get some answers, to figure out whether I could salvage what was left or if I needed to cut her out completely. I knew I had to be smart about this. Sarah wasn't the type to get caught easily, and she'd probably spin her lies again if I confronted her too soon. I decided I'd gather evidence, watch her actions, and see if she slipped up again. But more than anything, I was already planning what comes next: revenge somehow. You don't cheat on someone for years and expect everything to stay normal. No, this was war, and I'd make her regret ever crossing that line. Over the next few days, I kept my cool on the surface, but inside I was boiling. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, and I found myself constantly watching her every move. Sarah thought she was so clever, lying about everything, acting innocent, pretending she wasn't caught. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I needed proof, something concrete that I could hold over her head, something to make her regret what she'd done. I started noticing little things. Her phone was always closer, more guarded than ever. She'd delete texts or hide her screen whenever I came near. She was slipping, and I knew it. I also saw her meeting with her friends less, and when she did go out, she was suddenly more secretive about where she'd been. I didn't need to be a genius to figure out she was covering her tracks. One night, I decided to do some digging. I got into her phone, sneaking around when she was out for a girls' night with her friends. I went through her messages, her call logs, even her photos. What I found made my stomach turn. There were dozens of texts from Coach Martin, flirty and suggestive, messages about how much she enjoyed their little secret and can't wait to see her again. There were pictures, too, her in her underwear, her lying on the bed, all sent with some sick excuse about thanking him for everything. I felt sick reading those. The betrayal was worse than I thought. It wasn't just a one-time thing. She was actively cheating, lying to my face while she was doing it. It was painful, but I also felt anger rising. I started planning my next move. I wasn't just going to confront her anymore. I was going to make her pay. That weekend, I decided I'd catch her red-handed. I set my plan in motion. I arranged to bump into her at home, pretend to be busy with work, but really I was waiting, waiting for her to slip up again. I also called the school, confirmed that Coach Martin was still involved with the team, and started gathering more evidence, photos, videos if possible. I wanted her to see I was serious, that I was onto her game. It wasn't long before she made her move. Saturday night, she told me she was going out with her friends again. I played the part of the naive husband, acting like I didn't suspect a thing. She left the house with her bag, her heels clicking on porch, and I stayed hidden watching her leave. I had my phone ready, recording her getting into her car, setting up a plan to follow her discreetly. About an hour later, I saw her pull into the parking lot of the gym. My heart pounded. I followed her at a distance, hiding behind trees and cars. I saw her slip into the school, into the same equipment room. My stomach clenched. This was it. I parked a few blocks away, waiting. I didn't need to see everything again. I already knew what I'd find. But I needed proof, and I needed to see her in the act. 10 minutes later, she came out, her face flushed, her hair a mess. She looked over her shoulder nervously, then got into her car and sped off. I waited a few minutes, then snuck into the gym. I quietly made my way to the equipment room and peeked inside. There she was, Sarah again, on her knees with Coach Martin. The sight was worse than the first time. I felt rage and heartbreak crashing down all at once. This wasn't just some mistake or a moment of weakness. This was her life now. I took pictures and videos, enough evidence to burn her. I wanted her to know I wasn't bluffing. I wanted her to understand I had her dead to rights. When I finally left the gym, I felt numb but also resolved. She had crossed a line she'd never come back from. I'd have my revenge, no matter how long it took. My mind was racing. I needed to decide what to do next. Should I confront her outright? Should I leak the evidence to her friends or the school? Or should I just leave her, cut her out of my life, and never look back? The options were endless, but one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Not without consequences. As I sat in my car trying to catch my breath, I realized I had to act fast. This wasn't just about hurting her. It was about making her realize she couldn't lie or cheat her way out of this. I had to be strategic. I was going to give her a taste of what she'd done, and I was going to make her regret ever messing with my family. That's when I started planning my revenge, cold, calculated, and unforgiving. I knew she'd try to deny, to spin her lies, but I had her number now, and I wasn't going to stop until she paid. The days that followed were a blur of planning and internal chaos. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't sleep, and couldn't stop thinking about what I'd seen and what I was about to do. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her kneeling there with Coach Martin, the betrayal etched into my mind. I knew I had the evidence, photos, videos, all the secret texts. I could finally do something decisive. But what? How do you handle a wife who's been cheating so blatantly, so openly, and thinks she's untouchable? I spent hours going over my options. I could blow everything up, confront her directly with the proof, and see how she'd spin her lies. Or I could leverage it differently. Maybe use the evidence to scare her into confessing outright, or even worse, force her to leave quietly. Honestly, I wasn't interested in a quiet exit. I wanted her to feel the pain, the shame, the embarrassment she tried to hide from everyone. I wanted her to suffer just a little for what she'd done. One night, I finally decided I'd do a controlled reveal. I crafted a plan to send her the photos and videos anonymously. I wanted her to realize I wasn't fooling around, that I had every piece of her betrayal. It was sick, I know, but after everything she'd put me through, I didn't care about morality anymore. All that mattered was making her feel the same devastation I'd been feeling. Before I sent anything, I waited until she was asleep. I sat in the dark, phone in hand, knowing this was the turning point. I was about to deliver a blow that would shake her world. I made sure to include a message. You lied to me. You betrayed our family. You crossed a line you can't come back from. Then I hit send and I watched her phone light up with the notifications. She saw the files immediately. Her face froze in terror, her eyes wide with shock and fear. The next morning, she woke up looking like she'd seen a ghost. She checked her phone repeatedly, then finally confronted me, her voice trembling. "Jake, what is this? How did you get this?" I just looked at her, calm and cold. "You know exactly what it is. I've had enough of your lies. You think you can cheat on me, lie to everyone, and then just sweep it under the rug. Not this time." Her face twisted into a mask of anger and panic. "It's not what you think. I was just thanking him, that's all. You don't understand what's going on. You're overreacting." Her words sounded rehearsed, hollow, and I was sick of her bullshit. I told her she was done, that I knew everything and I wanted her to own it. She stormed into the bathroom trying to compose herself, but I could see the cracks in her perfect little facade. She kept insisting the videos were misleading, that I'd misunderstood, but I knew better. There was no misunderstanding. I'd caught her red-handed, and now she was scrambling to cover her ass. I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and disgust. I realized then that I couldn't trust her anymore, not for a second. The woman I loved, the woman I thought was my partner, was nothing but a cheater and a liar. And I was furious that I'd let her get away with so much for so long. I decided I'd keep the evidence and see how she reacted over the next few days. Maybe I'd give her a chance to come clean, or maybe I'd push her further. Either way, I knew this was only the beginning of my revenge, because she'd crossed a line and I was determined to make her regret it. As I sat there, watching her stumble around, trying to pretend everything was fine, I realized I'd never feel safe again. Not with her. Not after what I'd seen. And I knew I had to prepare myself for what was coming next. The game was on and I was just getting started. The tension in the house was unbearable after I sent her those images. Sarah tried to keep her cool, but I saw the cracks. She was packing more, snapping at Cody, avoiding me whenever she could. I didn't say much, just watched her carefully. I wanted her to think I was done, that I was just going to let it go. But inside, I was already working on the next move, something that would hit her even harder. I knew I could keep this secret forever. I needed her to know I wasn't backing down. I wanted her to realize that her lies and betrayal had consequences. So I started talking to some of her friends, subtly, acting like I was trying to understand her better. I wanted to gauge how much she'd told people, how much she'd lied about. It didn't take long before I learned she'd already spun a version of events, claimed she was just talking to Coach Martin, that I was paranoid and jealous, and that I was blowing things out of proportion. That made my blood boil. I had all the proof I needed, videos, texts, photos, but I was holding back. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her actions. I planned to confront her again, but this time with everything on the table. I wanted her to see that I knew the truth, that she couldn't lie her way out of it anymore. One evening, I waited until she was in the bedroom, scrolling through her phone. I walked in slowly, calmly, and laid down the evidence I'd gathered on her bed. Photos of her with Coach Martin, messages where she admitted to the affair, and even the videos I'd taken. Her eyes widened as she saw the proof, and I saw her stumble for words. "Sarah," I said, voice steady but cold, "this is what I found, all of it. You lied to me, you betrayed me and our family. How long has this been going on?" Her face flushed and she tried to spin her usual lies. "It's not what it looks like," she insisted, her voice trembling. "It's just some stupid mistake. I was just thanking him for helping Cody. That's all." I shook my head and stepped closer. "Don't lie. I saw you on your knees. I saw what you did. Don't insult my intelligence. You think I'm stupid. I trusted you, Sarah. I loved you. And you cheated, you lied, and you humiliated me in front of everyone, our friends, Cody, the whole damn town." My voice cracked with anger. She looked away, tears forming in her eyes, probably not because she was sorry, but because she knew she'd been caught. Her usual bitchy attitude was replaced with a defeated look. "You don't understand," she whispered. "It's not what you think. I was just feeling lonely. You're never home, always working. I needed someone to talk to, someone who listened, that's all." I scoffed. "Lonely, so you decided to cheat. That's your excuse. That's the best you can come up with. You think cheating is just feeling lonely. That's bullshit, Sarah. You crossed a line no apology can fix. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this." Her face twisted into a sneer. "You really think I care? Go ahead, be mad. It's not like I need your permission to do what I want. I'm not some obedient wife. I don't answer to you. I do what I want when I want." Her words stung, but I knew I couldn't let her control the narrative anymore. I told her she needed to leave, not because I wanted her gone, but because I couldn't stand to look at her anymore. I told her that she'd broken every promise, every vow, and I was done pretending it was okay. She shouted at me, calling me a jealous idiot, trying to turn everything around, but I wasn't hearing it. I was beyond caring about her excuses. That night, she packed her bags and left, slamming the door behind her. I sat alone in the dark, clutching the evidence in my hands. It was over, or so I thought, but deep down I knew this was just the beginning of a different kind of game. I'd spent years building trust and love, and she'd shattered it all in one night. Now I had to decide whether I was going to forgive her or make her regret ever crossing me. What I didn't tell anyone is how much it hurt, how betrayed I felt. I'd always believed in family, in loyalty. Now I was left with nothing but a pile of lies and broken promises. I wondered if I'd ever trust again, or if I'd just become someone who watches his wife burn in her own lies while secretly planning how to make her suffer even more. The pain was sharp, but I knew I would come out of this stronger, one way or another. The days that followed were some of the hardest I've ever experienced. After Sarah left, I felt this strange mixture of relief and devastation. On one hand, I finally knew the truth, and I could stop pretending everything was okay. On the other, I was left with this gnawing emptiness inside, knowing that the woman I loved, the woman I trusted for so long, had betrayed me in the worst way possible. I kept replaying everything: the signs I missed, her lies, the moment I saw her in that damn equipment room. It was like a punch to the gut every time I closed my eyes. I didn't contact her after she left. I knew I had to give myself space to think, to breathe. Instead, I threw myself into gathering more evidence, making sure I had everything documented, every detail, every lie she told. The thing about betrayal like this is that it's not just about the affair. It's about everything she hid, everything she lied about. I wanted to be sure I had enough to make her regret ever crossing that line. But as the days turned into weeks, something unexpected happened. I started noticing changes in myself. I was angrier, more bitter than I'd ever been. I found myself obsessively checking her social media, wondering if she was trying to reach out or spin stories to her friends. I knew she'd try to manipulate everyone to save face, but I refused to let her. One afternoon, I finally sat down and drafted a message, something raw, honest, and maybe a little ruthless. I wanted her to understand what her betrayal had done to me, how I felt, and why I'd never forgive her. I sent it to her, not expecting much, but I had to let it out. Her response was immediate, defensive, angry, calling me crazy, accusing me of stalking her. She denied everything, of course, but I didn't care. I knew the truth, and that was enough. Over time, I realized I couldn't keep living in this turmoil. I had a choice. I could try to forgive her and rebuild our marriage, or I could let her go, cut ties, and move on. Honestly, I wasn't sure I could forgive her, not after what I'd seen and what she'd done. But I also knew that holding onto this anger was only hurting me, so I made the decision to divorce. It was not easy and it was not quick. I went through the legal process, made sure Cody was protected, and tried to keep everything as amicable as possible, though I'll admit, I had my moments of fury still. I told her she'd burned every Bridge, and she deserved it. She tried to manipulate the situation to blame me for everything, but I didn't let her. I'd already seen through her lies. The final moments of our marriage felt like a release. I was finally free from the constant tension, the lies, the betrayal. I knew I'd be okay, more than okay, actually. I was hurt, sure, but I was stronger. I learned that trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep. But I also learned that sometimes the only way to heal is to cut out what's toxic. Looking back, I realize I've grown a lot from this nightmare. I've become more cautious about who I trust, more aware of the signs that something's wrong. And I've learned that revenge isn't about hurting her, at least not anymore. It's about reclaiming my peace, my dignity, and finding a way to move forward without looking back. So here's my advice to anyone going through something like this. Trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs. And when you're ready, don't be afraid to cut the poison out of your life. It's hard, yeah, but it's the only way to truly heal. Because in the end, you're the only one who can decide your worth. And sometimes that means walking away from everything you once believed in.